big time transfer news today in college basketball. Siena transfer Jalen Pickett has committed to play for Penn State next season. He was the number 2 remaining transfer on my list that I updated yesterday, only behind Trey Mitchell from UMass. So now he's headed to Penn State, a very talented 6'4" point guard. And, looking at Penn State, we made a video on them earlier this week when they landed Jaheim Cornwall from Gardner-Webb. That I always saw that as a good depth piece as a 6-man off the bench. And now they're finally able to do that because they add Jalen Pickett, of course. And, they have a very talented roster, but they're not very deep still, which is something they certainly need to improve upon. But for now, this is a very, very solid team. So the starting 5 will look something like Jalen Pickett at the 1, who was a 3-time first-team All-Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the other MAC, whatever you want to call it. He was the first team in that conference 3 different times. He was the Conference Player of the Year in 2019-2020. He's a very good shooter from deep, and he's very smart. He's great in the pick-and-roll game, and he's going to be a high-end lead guard. He had 12.9 points per game last season, 6.3 rebounds per game, and 4.8 assists per game last season, shooting 35% from deep. In his Conference Player of the Year season, 2019-20, had 15 a game, 4 rebounds a game, 6 assists per game, shot 45% from the field and 37% from deep. Certainly his best season. And I think he's going to do very good in the future for Penn State. I think he has a very high ceiling. And I just think that when you add a guy like Jalen Pickett, you're definitely going to be a good team because he was one of the best mid-major guards in the country. And he's able to now be the lead guy. He's going to play a big role. Obviously, you have a few other guards with Sam Sessom set to return, but he's not going to be the lead guy for Penn State next season. It's just, I don't think Jalen Pickett goes there without reassurance that he's going to be the guy because he's an NBA talent down the line for sure, in my opinion. I think Sam Sessom is a good player. Had 8 points per game last season, really good in the mid-range, and certainly handled the ball a bit. But I think off the bench, he had 20 minutes a game last season, didn't start. I think we'll see him in that 6-man role once again next season. And I think Jalen Pickett's going to run the point at the 2. You have Miles Dredd, who was one of the few Penn State players that didn't enter the portal. He decided to stay put from the time that a coaching change was made. Miles Dredd is a very good shooter. It's kind of always what he's been throughout his career. 34% from deep last season. I think there's a lot more potential there. I like his shooting form quite a bit. He's a very good 3-and-D kind of guy. I think he can shoot close to 40 this year without Myron Jones. He's certainly going to have to take a step up, but I think he's going to have a very good season next year. Now, here's where things get interesting. You can go a few different directions here. You can put Seth Lundy at the 3 and a guy like DJ Gordon at the 4 and John Harrer obviously conducting the 5 spot, or you could go a little smaller and have Pickett at the 1, Sam Sessoms or Jaheim Cornwall at the 2 with Seth Lundy at the 3, or that would put Seth Lundy at the 4 and John Harrer at the 5. I think Penn State's best plan of attack is adding a wing guy from the portal, letting Seth Lundy play the 4 or at a true 4 stretch 4-man, which is kind of the role Lundy's played last season. So I think he's kind of accustomed to that role, but he's a combo forward for sure. I think DJ Gordon has a pretty high ceiling, but, Sam Sessoms, he could end up starting, but I think Penn State's better off adding a guy from the portal at the wing spot or the stretch 4 spot to kind of bolster the lineup. I think they'll definitely add a few more names from the portal or JUCO, as they've already offered Tyrone Williams, a top scoring guard in the country in junior college basketball last season from Grayson Community College. I think they're definitely going to be in the market for another JUCO transfer or just regular transfer from the portal to bolster their depth up a little bit, because right now they can only run about 6 to 7 deep with guys that are experienced in playing college basketball, and then you're going to have to rely on guys like Abdou Simbila, DJ Gordon, Caleb Dorsey, guys who just haven't played much at this level. I think they could certainly develop, but you don't want to spring them into a role they aren't used to at this point. So I think with how many names are remaining in the portal, they could certainly add a few guys. There's some talented wings. You could look at Emmanuel Miller from Texas A&M to step in and play a huge role. He's one of the top transfers remaining. That's the kind of guy you're looking for, in my opinion. But Micah Shrewsbury has done a very good job recruiting to this point, getting guys back. Because if you remember, Seth Lundy and John Hara both entered the transfer portal but removed their name, and now they're both back. Penn State at the moment probably isn't a tournament team just because they aren't very deep. If any injuries happen, they're in deep trouble. They certainly have guard depth, but they don't have any forward depth at all. So if they could add some forwards, they're looking pretty good next season. And the Big Ten is going to be tough, but they also have plenty of opportunities to pick up wins. And we've seen the selection committee be kind of favorable towards Big Ten teams, even if they don't have the best record on paper. With how tough the schedule is every single season, as long as they don't have any devastating losses in the non-conference slate, they could definitely make the tournament with a 17-12 record or 17-13 record. Just because that's a rough record on paper, it's not a great record by any means. We saw Ohio State get in with that 17-14 record a few seasons ago, and they weren't even one of the final four teams in. They were an at-large 11 seed who was one of the last four byes. Like, when you're in the Big Ten, and rightfully so, you get a lot of leeway with the selection committee because of how tough the conference slate is every season. Penn State is looking pretty good for next season. Jalen Pickett is a fantastic guard. He's a future NBA player and a huge ad. Thanks for checking out the video. Like and subscribe, and see you.